Hello, welcome to your weekly Pick Your Crystal reading here at Soulprint. Thank you so very, very much for being here. Okay, so we are looking at the week of April 20th to the 26th. For those of you who celebrate, happy Easter. I hope the bunny is good to you. All right, let's get started here. All right, so this one, I'm pretty sure this is Lamar. We're just going to call it green. This is rose quartz and Moonstone. Take a moment, see which crystal or crystals are calling out to you. Some people like to use a pendulum. Some people just like to listen to all three and pick whichever one works best. Whatever works for you is great. But we're going to get started. Here we go. All right. Let's take this over here so I can get some room. Okay. Here we go. Okay, we're starting with the King of Swords, Three of Wands, Eight of Pentacles, and the Page of Cups. Okay. Okay, so the King of Swords typically is kind of that energy having to do with law, government, people in uniforms. But the energy of the swords is really about power, can be about conflict. It can be about your thoughts and your ambitions. It's connected to air, right? So the air sign energy. Now, the Three of Wands generally talks about sort of completing the first stage of something, and kind of waiting for the second stage to begin, if you will. The Eight of Pentacles talks about a new job, money-making ventures. It has a lot to do with kind of that consistent, right? You work hard, you do your job, and, the abundance you're looking for, the security, whatever it is, comes. And the Page of Cups, the little Page of Cups, she brings you happy news. So let's take a look at this and see where we're going. If, for example, this card is literally representing for you some sort of a legal or a government documentation, perhaps you're waiting for approval of something, could even be connected to a bank. It is in process. It is even possible that with this card, you've actually started the initial process and now you're waiting for some sort of a return or a response. With the Eight of Pentacles, there's an energy around it that this thing is moving through the process. It's moving along. It's going forward. And ultimately, with the Page of Cups, you end up with sort of some good news at the end of it. So, for example, let's say you have applied for some sort of government benefit. Let's go with that. And goodness gracious, there's a lot of concern these days about, pensions and healthcare and those kinds of things. So let's say this has started and you're now in process. You've sent out the information, you filled out the forms, whatever it is. It's going to help you create some stability in your life. That's part of what you're looking for, is that sense of financial stability. Maybe this is in addition to a regular job you have. Maybe you are leaving employ after a long time and you're ready now to retire. This is bringing forward that sort of sense of financial security and safety. And the Page of Cups is an indicator that things should go well for you. Also, same thing, lawsuit. Perhaps there's some sort of a legal situation going on. Again, it's the same process. Things have started, they're moving forward. There is a need for a sense of, sort of stability or abundance that is coming forward as a result. And there should be good news coming. The cards are really sort of cut and dry in this reading. So there you go. That's literally what the Lamar stone or crystal is talking about. All right. Rose quartz. Here we go. All right. We've got the Knight of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Ace of Cups. All right. So very often rose quartz is kind of considered like a heart stone, right? Or a love stone, a relationship crystal. So with the Knight of Pentacles here, this is about bringing forward some sort of a positive outcome, right? It's very often the Knight of Pentacles will bring news or movement towards some sort of financial security or goal. Sometimes it is about physical. It can also, sometimes Pentacles can just be about your own creativity, it can be about your health. It's tangible material things. All right. The Ace of Swords is bringing forward triumph over adversity. It is talking about sort of inner strength. It's talking about mental clarity. With the Nine of Pentacles, it's the Nine of Pentacles is sort of that card of living with financial success, abundance. There's a sense of material security. There's a feeling that you have what you need and that you've worked for it and it's now available to you. And sometimes this card's looked at as sort of almost like a luxury card. But for the most part, I think it's just really talking about kind of growing your own crops and harvesting your own crops, right? What you put in, you get out. And the Ace of Cups talks about, you know, a new relationship. It can be about the beginning of some sort of a period of time in your life. It represents happiness at home. It represents, sometimes your intuition. So again, these cards, as you're looking at them, they're talking really about new beginnings, moving forward, but doing so in a way that there's like a sense of satisfaction here, right? You've you've done what you needed to do. You put in the time. You have struggled, you've pushed, you've done whatever you needed to do to get to where you are right now. This is a time of looking for your harvest, for reaping those rewards. With the Ace of Cups here, you really are talking about something that brings you some emotional comfort, happiness, satisfaction. That's the kind of energy around this. So for those of you who have chosen the rose quartz this week, this really does feel like I almost want to say like a coming together of a goal or an accomplishment that brings you that financial security and that emotional happiness. And it's interesting because, you have two pentacles here, swords and cups. So this is about emotional. This is about, triumphing. Ultimately, it's about security. Okay. And let's take a look at the Moonstone. All right, so we're starting with the Four of Pentacles, Temperance, the Empress, and the Nine of Wands. Okay. So, Four Pentacles. It's a card generally about hanging on to something, perhaps even too tightly, being worried or concerned about scarcity. Sometimes it's referred to as like the miser, a miserly card, right? It's about being very, very careful and cautious with your assets. That's fine, but sometimes this card will represent an over cautious nature. Temperance is coming along and she's asking you to find the balance. Um, find that space between blowing everything and holding everything. Find that space where you are able to identify, recognize your needs, make sure they're covered, and move forward from there. The Empress is an amazing card to get, particularly at this time of year, because the Empress represents new birth, new beginnings, the springtime, growth, abundance, all of that kind of energy. And so It's almost as if the Empress is saying, listen, we know you're being careful. We know you're being cautious. That's okay. But don't do that to the point where now your belief structure about money and security gets out of balance. Abundance comes best and the most quickly when we are in a state of balance, when our emotions connected to that abundance is temperate, as opposed to high anxiety or worry or agitation. All right. And the nine of wands is sort of interesting. It's an interesting card to follow these ones because the nine of wands really does talk about perseverance, um, keeping yourself sort of protected and safe, but it's about kind of that final push. It's about, your reserves, keeping yourself protected. So it's interesting because it's talking about almost like this fear that you're trying to deal with right now when it comes to finances and material abundance. You're being asked to please find balance. Trust that you are entering a period of time where abundance comes very easily, because we are looking at a time of new beginnings and new growth. That, of course, is if you are in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, in this instant, then the Empress is representing almost like the harvest, right? The normal conclusion of the abundance of spring. And the Nine of Wands is asking you to recognize that it's been a bit of a challenge. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this. This has been a hard period of time that you've gone through. And there is understanding or awareness of the need to keep yourself protected and safe, but there is also a need to push forward and move forward. Don't get so wrapped up in holding on to everything that you have immobilized yourself in terms of going forward. So that's what we're looking at for the Moonstone. All right. Thank you very, very much for being here this week. I hope you have a really lovely week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you again next week here at Pick Your Crystal at Soulprint. Bye for now.